Yo, what's going on, yo? I'm JB Hoops, and today I've got my Bigboard 4.0. The combine wrapped up last week, and we now know the lottery order. So I've put together my top 60 prospects into 6 tiers. If you enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more. And let's get right into it with some honorable mentions. So I think I'll have around 40 honorable mentions, so it rounds out at 100 guys. The prospects highlighted in green are my 60th through 70th ranked prospects. And the others are guys I think are draftable, or guys that should get some interest in undrafted free agency. But for my Bigboard 4.0, it's just my top 60 prospects. Alright, now let's just get right into tier 6 with my prospects ranked 60 through 41. Starting us off at 60, I have AMARI Moore, the 6'6" senior out of San Jose State. Moore's a super versatile wing with great tools and really impressive passing feel. He measured in at 6th in the combine for standing reach. He's solid defensively, I buy the shot, and think he'll be a really solid bet in the late 2nd or undrafted free agency. So I have AMARI Moore starting off tier 7 at 60. At 59, I have Adama Sanogo, the 6'8" junior out of UConn. Sanogo has incredible touch for a big, a super huge frame. He can score in the post, in the pick and roll, and even stretch the floor. He's not going to be a big shot blocker, and he is undersized at just 6'8", but his energy on the boards and offensive talent put him in my top 60. At 58, I have Mike Miles Jr., the 6'2" guard out of TCU. Miles is a small guard, but just really gets it done. He's an excellent creator in the pick and roll, can score from anywhere on the floor, and has great touch. And he was also super efficient around the rim. He doesn't have ideal measurables, but just knows how to play and get buckets. So I have Mike Miles Jr. at 58. At 57, I have Dylan Jones, the 6'6" sophomore out of Weber State. Jones is a big guard with great vision and the ability to make an impact in multiple areas of the game. He's an elite rebounder who averaged almost 11 a game. I think he'll continue to improve as a shooter. He's crafty, has good touch and a super strong frame. And whilst he's definitely not an explosive athlete, he's powerful and deceptively quick, so he can definitely get downhill and hold his own defensively. So I have Dylan Jones coming in at 57. Just ahead of him at 56, I have Ricky Council IV, the 6'6" wing out of Arkansas. Council's an explosive athlete and relentlessly attacks the cup. The jumper is very rough and he will need to improve it, but the off-ball scoring and defensive upside should intrigue teams in the second round. So I have Ricky Council IV at 56. The 6'11" sophomore out of Washington State, Mohamed Gay, comes in at 55. Gay's a super mobile and skilled big with a high degree of skill. He can put the ball on the floor, drive, shoot it, and competes defensively, and has also developed into a pretty impressive passer. If he shows teams he can consistently shoot it, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets drafted in the early to mid-second round. At 54, I have Naquan Tomlin, the 6'10" junior out of Kansas State. Tomlin's a raw prospect as he only picked up basketball after high school, but he's got intriguing upside on both ends of the floor, and his mobility is special. He showed out during K-State's Elite 8 run and was just always making an impact, so Naquan Tomlin's definitely one of my favorite swings in the second round. At 53, I have Andre Jackson Jr., the 6'7" junior out of UConn. Ajax is an elite athlete and a defensive playmaker. He can facilitate, push the pace, and was a huge contributor to the national champions, despite the mediocre looking counting stats. With his energy, versatility, and impact, Ajax will get a lot of interest in the second round, and potentially some teams in the late first, but for now, I have him at 53. Next up at 52, I have Toumani Camara, the 6'8" senior out of Dayton. Camara is one of the few prospects you can legitimately claim can guard 1 through 5. He's awesome on switches, moves extremely well and flips his hips quickly. He also has a clean jumper, is a great finisher inside, and I think he can definitely make an impact at the NBA level. So I have Toumani Camara at 52. Just ahead of him at 51, I have Jalen Clark, the 6'5" junior out of UCLA. Clark is an absolute menace on the defensive end. His hands are incredible, he's strong, and has the ability to defend 1 through 3. He hurt his Achilles towards the end of the year, so wasn't able to show out on the big stage. If he can become even a serviceable offensive player, I really think he'll be a rotation lock, so I have Jalen Clark at 51. At 50, I have Jalen Slauson, the 6'8" senior out of Furman. Slauson's a strong forward with a ton of versatility on both ends. He can really pass and finish inside and has improved as a shooter. He is a bit of an older prospect at 23, but his two-way skill set is perfect for the modern NBA, so I have Jalen Slauson coming in at 50. At 49, I have Ben Shepherd, the 6'6" wing out of Belmont. Shepard's a great shooter with a super quick release. He really showed out at the combine with a 25-point performance, showing his shot versatility, impressive screen navigation, movement shooting and defensive activity, and I wouldn't be surprised if he was picked early in the second round with some good workouts. But for now, I have Ben Shepherd at 49. Just edging him out for the 48 spot, I have REECE BEEKMAN. The 6'3 guard out of Virginia is an incredible defender with excellent hands and instincts. He's also a great passer, but will have to be more consistent offensively. So for now, I have REECE BEEKMAN at 48. Next up at 47, I have Kobe Brown, the 6'8 senior out of Missouri. Brown's a well-rounded physical forward and a high-field connector that consistently makes the right plays. He's drastically improved as a shooter to the point where he shot 45% from 3 this year, and whilst I don't think it's sustainable, I really buy him being a solid shooter, and with his skill set, size and versatility, should be a priority for competitive teams in the second round. Next up at 46, I have Rayon Rupert, the 6'7 wing out of the New Zealand Breakers. I get the appeal with Rupert. He had some great moments defensively, a 7'2 wingspan, and an intriguing offensive game, but he's still extremely raw and I'm just a lot more confident in other guys producing, whilst possessing similar or higher upsides. Rupert's a project for sure and will require a ton of investment, but I still have him at 46. Ahead of him at 45, I have Tristan Vukcevic, the 7-foot big man out of Partizan. He's a skilled big who can do a bit of everything offensively. He can knock down the 3, play in the pick and roll, he's relatively mobile and can put the ball on the floor. He was another standout at the combine, and although he has some work to do defensively, I think he fits the mold of a modern 4, so will definitely get looks in the early second round. At 44, I have another international big man, that being James Nagy. The 6'10 center out of Barcelona is very raw, but he's a big time athlete with a huge frame at just 18 years old. He's a good play finisher and an imposing shot blocker, with great mobility and a 7'7" wingspan. I'm a big fan of Nagy's game and think there's a chance someone really likes him as a late first or early second round guy, but for now I have James Nagy at 44. Next up at 43, I have Terrence Shannon Jr., the 6'7 senior out of Illinois. He's a versatile wing with elite burst and speed. He can shoot the 3, drive, get to the line and pass off a live dribble, and he's also very active on the defensive end. TSJ will have to be more consistent, especially with his shot, but his off-ball scoring and athleticism will definitely give him a role in the league, so I have Terrence Shannon Jr. at 43. At 42, I have Trayce Jackson-Davis, the 6'9 senior out of Indiana. TJD was one of the best players in college basketball. He makes an impact on both ends of the floor, he can post up, is great in the pick and roll and make plays out of the short roll, and I think his defense will be rock solid despite him being a bit undersized. So I think he's ready for the NBA and will make an impact with his energy, athleticism and skill from day one, and that's why I have Trayce Jackson-Davis at 42. At the top of tier 6 at 41, I have Nikola Jurisic, the 6'8 wing out of Serbia. Jurisic didn't have a great season, but he's a high field big wing with great vision and a ton of shot creation potential. He's been very inconsistent and has some work to do on defense, but a 6'8 shot making wing with guard skills isn't common, so he should still be in the mix in the early second round. Moving on to tier 5 with my prospects ranked 40 through 21. At 40, I have Julian STRAWTHER, the 6'7 wing out of Gonzaga. Julian STRAWTHER is probably one of the safest second round bets in the class. He's a great shooter, has soft touch and competes defensively and on the boards. He'll need to improve as a passer and be more consistent on D, but should definitely draw interest in the early second round. Next up at 39, I have Judah Mintz, the 6'4 freshman out of Syracuse. I'm a big fan of Judah Mintz's game, but I kind of hope he returns to lock in his status as a top 20 guy. He's got great burst, gets to the rim at ease and has soft touch inside, and he's improved a ton as a playmaker, but the 3-point shot just isn't where it needs to be, and with his size, he'll have to be more of a threat from deep. His pull-up scoring is promising, and I'd still definitely take him top 40, but he could also return to attempt to lock in his top 20 status in the 2024 draft. Just ahead of him at 38, I have Adem Bona, the 6'9 freshman out of UCLA. Bona's a phenomenal athlete who can protect the rim, defend in space, and just outwork the opposition. He is almost exclusively a play finisher at the moment, and he also struggled with fouls, so I could see him returning if he doesn't get a promise, but for now I have Adem Bona at 38. At 37, I have Olivia Maxence Prosper, the 6'8 junior out of Marquette. Omax Prosper has been one of my biggest rises since March. He's got great size and length, a solid handle, can shoot the 3 and defend multiple positions, and he's also an excellent cutter. He's just a super versatile player and could be a Swiss Army knife type guy for whoever picks him up. So I have Omax Prosper at 37. Above him at 36, I have Trey Alexander, the 6'4 sophomore out of Creighton. Alexander's a smooth scorer with a pretty deep bag. He can shoot the 3, play either guard spot, attack closeouts and make an impact defensively, so should be a great bet in the early second round. AMARI Bailey comes in at 35. The 6'4 UCLA freshman is a smooth scorer, a great athlete and a very strong finisher. The shooting needs to come around and he could also return to school if he doesn't get a promise. But this season I was really impressed with what he could do on the defensive end. His ability to flip his hips and stick with ball handlers is amazing. And if he returns, I'd probably have him in my top 20. But for now I have AMARI Bailey at 35. Next up at 34 I have KRIS Murray, the 6'9 junior out of Iowa. KRIS will obviously draw comparisons to his brother, but I think there are some pretty significant differences in their games. He can shoot it from deep and score in the paint, but he won't be able to play his style of play, and his transition to the NBA game won't be easy, and he's also just more limited than Keegan overall. So I'm not as high on KRIS Murray as some, but I still think he has a good chance to be a first round pick, but for now I have him at 34. At 33, I have Marcus Sasser, the 6'2 senior out of Houston. I'm not typically a fan of undersized, older guards, but Marcus Sasser is one of my personal favourites and I really think he can be great. He's an excellent shooter and shot creator and a really good point of attack defender with a 6'7 wingspan. He also improved as a passer and his touch and finishing craft is really solid. Sasser could quickly become a top end backup guard, and I wouldn't be surprised if a team takes him in the late first round. Next up at 32, I have DARON Holmes II, the 6'10 sophomore out of Dayton. Holmes is a super quick and mobile big who can play multiple roles on both ends of the floor. He can protect the rim, switch, and has soft touch and a nice looking jumper. He'll have to get stronger to match up with 5s, but I really like his long term upside, so I have DARON Holmes II at 32. Just above him at 31, I have Terquavion Smith, the 6'4 sophomore out of NC State. After a very up and down season, Turk probably isn't going to go as high as expected, and he weighed in at just 163 pounds at the combine, so will definitely have to put on some weight, but he's an NBA caliber shot creator with incredibly deep range, with the ability to play on or off the ball. I also think his passing is a bit underappreciated, but for now I have Terquavion Smith at 31. At 30, I have JAYLEN Hood-Schifino, the 6'5 freshman out of Indiana. I'm not as high as most on JHS, but the pick and roll craft, shot making and size are very good, and the flashes of a lotto guy were definitely there. The inconsistency, finishing struggles and iffy decision making are the big questions for me, but I think it's more me preferring other prospects, so for now I have JHS at 30. Next up at 29, I have Sidy Cissoko, the 6'7 wing out of the G League Ignite. I love Sidy's upside as an athletic wing who can facilitate, finish inside and wreak havoc defensively. He has improved as a shooter but still has a ways to go, and overall he's still very raw, but with reps and investment, Cissoko could develop into a really good two-way player, so that's why I have him at 29. At 28, I have Brandin PODZIEMSKI, the 6'5 sophomore out of Santa Clara. He's a super well-rounded offensive guard with 3-level scoring ability. PODZIEMSKI's a really incredible shooter who can shoot off the catch and off the dribble. He's crafty, a great passer, and a competitive defender and rebounder. The athletic concerns are valid, but his polish and production easily puts him in first-round consideration. Emoni Bates comes in at 27. The 6'9 Eastern Michigan sophomore is one of the more polarizing prospects in a while, but Emoni is a super talented shooter and shot maker, and in my opinion is a bit unfairly criticized. The questions around his separation ability, athletic and physical limitations, and shot selection are definitely fair, but I actually liked what he showed as a passer and help defender, and I think in the right situation he'll be able to take on a more confined role and thrive, and I still really like his upside, so I have Emoni Bates at 27. Ahead of him at 26, I have Jordan Walsh, the 6'7 freshman out of Arkansas. Jordan Walsh is just an awesome prospect. He is a dog on defense, has an insane 7'2" wingspan along with the instincts and IQ to be elite on that end. He struggled to produce offensively at Arkansas, but he's definitely capable of a lot more. He has good feel and will make an impact as a defensive specialist whilst his offense continues to develop. So I have Jordan Walsh at 26. At 25, I have Jordan Hawkins, the 6'5" sophomore out of UConn. The national champion is an excellent shooter in every way imaginable. His elite off movement and spotting up. He also had some impressive moments defensively and made a few nice passing reads. In my opinion, the lotto hype is a bit much, but I see him being a really solid 4th or 5th starter. So I have Jordan Hawkins at 25. Just edging him out for the 24 spot, I have Bilal Coulibaly, the 6'7" wing out of the Metropolitans 92. Coulibaly's quite a raw prospect, but there's been some incredible flashes on both ends of the floor. He's a great athlete with a ridiculous 7'3" wingspan. He has a great motor and is one of the best wing defenders in the class. His jump shot and handle have a ways to go, but his movement ability and flashes are special, so I have Bilal Coulibaly at 24. Next up at 23, I have Nick Smith Jr., the 6'5" freshman out of Arkansas. Smith had a very rough season, struggling with injury and consistency, but the flashes of high-end shot making and shooting were very impressive. He'll definitely have to get better defensively, and his decision making isn't always great, but I'm still a fan of his upside, so I have Nick Smith Jr. at 23. At 22, I have Colby Jones, the 6'6" junior out of Xavier. Jones is a skilled wing that can score on all 3 levels and make an impact defensively. He's efficient from all over the floor, has great passing feel, and his skill set fits in perfectly almost anywhere. He's one of the more NBA ready prospects and could really help a competitive team, or help make a team more competitive. So I have Colby Jones at 22. At the top of tier 5 at 21, I have Leonard Miller, the 6'10" forward out of the G League Ignite. Leonard Miller's decision to join the Ignite really worked out for him, and he improved in almost every area of the game. He's huge, incredibly mobile, and has elite touch. The shot still needs a lot of work and he's up and down defensively, but he performed at a high level against pros and has unreal upside, so I have Leonard Miller at the top of tier 5 at 21. Moving on to tier 4 with my prospects ranked 20 through 8. Starting off tier 4 at 20, I have Noah Clowney, the 6'10" freshman out of Alabama. I really love Noah Clowney's game. He has awesome tools and instincts, moves well in space, and takes good angles. Offensively, he's coordinated and skilled, has solid touch, can attack closeouts and hit catch and shoot threes. He will probably be a longer term project, but with his size, versatility, and instincts, I think he'll get a lot of interest in the mid to late first round. Coming in at 19, I have Maxwell Lewis, the 6'7" sophomore out of Pepperdine. Max Lewis is a very interesting prospect as his season started incredibly well but finished poorly, but I still have him in tier 4 as his athleticism, shooting versatility and self-creation upside is just too great to ignore. He's got great size at 6'7" with a 7-foot wingspan, can really handle, pass and score, and although he will have to improve on the defensive end, in the right situation I think Max Lewis could quickly become a very impactful player. So I have Maxwell Lewis at 19. Next up at 18, I have Dereck Lively II, the 7'1" freshman out of Duke. This might even be a bit low with how impactful he is. Lively will definitely have to be more of a scoring threat, but he'll still get a lot of easy buckets at the rim. His passing was a real standout, and he's an elite defensive prospect with his mobility and incredible shot blocking timing and instincts. He's shown he can shoot it in the past and has great mechanics, so I think there's a lot more to his game yet to be unlocked, but for now I have Dereck Lively at 18. At 17, I have Anthony Black, the 6'7" freshman out of Arkansas. I really like Anthony Black's game. He's a phenomenal passer with excellent size and feel, and one of the top defenders in the class. His poor jumper and touch limit him as a driver and half-court creator, but even in an off-ball wing role, I like his feel and defensive versatility, so I have Anthony Black at 17. At 16, I have Kobe Bufkin, the 6'5" sophomore out of Michigan. Bufkin is a tremendous driver and finisher, gets real low on his drives, and is a great live dribble passer. The pull-up shooting and 3 is coming along, and he makes an impact defensively. He's just a really well-rounded prospect that isn't even close to reaching his ceiling, so I think there's a real chance Kobe Bufkin returns top 10 value. Next up at 15, I have Grady Dick, the 6'7" wing out of Kansas. Grady's an amazing shooter and a great connecting passer who just makes winning plays. He has some work to do with his defensive technique and awareness and is limited as a self-creator, and that's probably why I'm not as high on him as most, but Grady's skill set as a shooter, connector, and team defender is very rare and valuable, and absolutely every team would love to have a guy like him, but for now I have Grady Dick at 15. Just ahead of him at 14, I have Jett Howard, the 6'8 freshman out of Michigan. Howard's another excellent shooter and one of the best off movement in the class, and he also has a really solid handle and bag of counters. He'll have to improve as a finisher and defender, but he's a 6'8 sniper with some promising self-creation upside, so I have Jett Howard at 14. DERECK Whitehead comes in at 13. The 6'7 Duke wing had a really rough freshman season, with multiple injuries, limited minutes, and he ended up having to get a second surgery on his foot, which will hopefully enable him to physically and athletically return to his best. But despite all this, DERECK developed into a knockdown 3-point shooter, and consistently improved on the defensive end. Pre-Duke Whitehead was a monster, and if he can regain that burst and explosion, should be a steal for whoever picks him up. Next up at 12, I have Cason Wallace, the 6'4 freshman out of Kentucky. I'm a huge fan of Cason's game. He's a special defensive prospect who still has a lot of room to grow on both ends. He can shoot it from deep, set up his teammates, and really finish inside. And I think he'll be a perfect complementary player / star who just always makes an impact. He could go as high as 8 in the draft and I would totally understand it. But on this board, I have Cason Wallace at 12. At 11, I have Gregory Jackson II, the 6'9 freshman out of South Carolina. I did not expect GG to go this high in the draft, but I personally love his upside. He probably had the worst context of any prospect as the youngest guy in the class, but was still able to showcase his unreal handle and shot creation upside at 6'9, his solid 3-point shooting and off-ball smarts. He has a lot of stuff to clean up on both ends, and GG probably won't be a high minute guy early on, but in the right development system, I truly believe he can become a star. Next up at 10, I have Taylor Hendricks, the 6'9 UCF freshman. Taylor Hendricks had an incredible freshman season. He's one of the best 3-and-D guys in the class at 6'9 with a 7'1 wingspan, so we'll have a ton of suitors in the lottery. Hendricks has a perfect skill set to fit on almost every team. I'm not super high on him as I'm not confident he'll be much of a creator, but his skill set is extremely valuable, especially in the playoffs, so I have Taylor Hendricks coming in at 10. Just ahead of him at 9, I have Bryce Sensabaugh, the 6'6 Ohio State freshman. Bryce isn't the most well-rounded prospect and he has some work to do defensively and as a decision maker, but ultimately basketball is about putting the ball in the basket, and Sensabaugh is an elite scorer. His shot making and shooting is special, he's got phenomenal touch and has improved as a passer. The shot selection can be a bit questionable and he doesn't create a lot of separation, but Bryce is just a ridiculously talented player, so I have him firmly in my top 10. At the top of tier 4 at 8, I have Keyonte George, the 6'4 freshman out of Baylor. Keyonte is another top tier shooter and shot maker. He can shoot off movement and off the dribble. His playmaking and defense was very inconsistent, but the flashes were promising. And he's said to have dropped to 200 pounds, so he looks a lot more explosive. He definitely has his flaws, but I really buy his long-term NBA upside and think he could be a star in the league. So I have Keyonte George at the top of tier 4 coming in at 8. Now on to tier 3 with my prospects ranked 7 through 4. At 7, I have Jarris Walker, the 6'8 freshman out of Houston. Jarris is a monster defensively with a really intriguing offensive game. He can drain spot up threes, attack the glass and facilitate, and I like his upside as a self-creator given his touch, strength and handle, but he will need to be more assertive. Jarris Walker is just a really cool prospect who will make an impact on both ends from day one. He's got such a great feel for the game and I currently have him at 7. Next up at 6, I have Brandon Miller, the 6'9 freshman out of Alabama. Brandon Miller's a guy I'm not as high on as most people are. He's definitely a great shooter with good passing feel and he always plays solid defense. And the improvements he made throughout the season were very impressive. But his issues against size and physicality will only be further exploited in the league. He's still a great prospect and solidly in this tier, but I think he's more suited to being a complementary third or maybe second option, rather than being a primary, which a top 2 pick should probably be. So with that, I have Brandon Miller at 6. Next up at 5, I have Ausar Thompson, the 6'7 wing out of the Overtime Elite. Ausar was excellent for the City Reapers, winning a championship, MVP, and finals MVP. He's a ridiculous athlete, one of the best defensive prospects in the class, and I love his handle. His jumper has also consistently improved and isn't too bad mechanically. He doesn't have the god tier burst Emoni does and struggled a bit in the half court, and obviously the competition level wasn't ideal, but he's just so skilled, physically gifted, and versatile, so I have Ausar Thompson as a lock in my top 5. Just edging him out for the top spot in tier 3, I have Cam Whitmore, the 6'7" freshman out of Villanova. In my opinion, Cam Whitmore is the best college prospect in the draft. He's a dominant driver with incredible strength and good touch, and will get a ton of easy buckets just bullying and moving people out the way. Cam's also drastically improved as a shooter. He hit 40% of his catch and shoot threes, and he had some intriguing handling and creation flashes. I'm also really high on his defensive upside. He's quick, strong, and has excellent hands, so I think he could develop into a two-way star. And that's why I have Cam Whitmore at the top of tier 3 and 4th overall. Now on to tier 2 with my 2nd and 3rd ranked guys. At 3, I have Amen Thompson, the 6'7" guard out of the Overtime Elite. Amen Thompson is a phenomenal prospect with scary upside. He's an all-time great athlete and the best playmaker in the draft, with great feel, craft, and creativity. His jumper does need significant alterations, but his touch is solid, and over the season he had a few smooth-looking shots. Thompson also has the potential to be amazing on the defensive end, and I really buy him developing into an engine and star of a team. Amen Thompson is immensely talented, so he's right up there pushing for a top 2 spot. And for me personally is a top 3 lock. At 2, I have Scoot Henderson, the 6'3" guard out of the G League Ignite. Scoot is one of the best point guard prospects in a long time. He didn't have the season he was capable of and had a few injuries and rough stretches, but he's proven he can be dominant against high level competition. He's an elite playmaker, an incredible athlete, and a fiery competitor. Scoot will tear up defenses with his burst, decision making, and pull-up shooting, and I'm confident the efficiency in shooting will come around. I really think he can be an MVP candidate type player, and Scoot Henderson is a special talent for sure. Now finally onto tier 1 with my top prospect, which is obviously Victor Wembanyama, the 7'5" big man out of the Mets 92. Wemby is a generational talent in every sense of the word, and he's going to make the Spurs must-watch TV for years to come. He does everything on the floor, is insanely skilled, and he's put on a decent amount of size over the past few years, and his tools, feel, skill, and work ethic give him the potential to become one of the all-time greats. Pop will be great for him, and so will Tim Duncan and David Robinson. Victor Wembanyama is truly one of the greatest prospects of all time, and I'm extremely excited to see him playing on an NBA floor. Alright, so that is my Bigboard 4.0 top 60 prospects. Keep in mind the tiers matter a lot more than the rankings do here, so a lot of these guys could really go anywhere in the draft. I have more videos on the way before the draft and after, so if you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more. Comment what you think down below, I'll make sure to reply to all of them. I really appreciate the support, let's try to get to 2K. Anyway, that's all I got. JB Hoops, out.